Water leak? Bad news in an RV. Why? Well, many if not all are akin to what a fighter pilot I know once said. It's really disheartening to know that you're about to land your billion-dollar aircraft on something you know was put together by the lowest bid. The materials in so many RVs out there, in particular towables, are made with materials that are hydrophobic. What do I mean by that? Well, the wood is either pressboard, OSB, or some other kind of cheap construction material. Wood, or what used to be wood, that's got a glued-on paper veneer to make you think it's wood. It's just cheaper and easier to build it that way. Even the aluminum framed RVs are super thin-walled tubing. That's square tubing. It's so bad that to get a screw to hold in that tubing, they have to put some real wood in the sections that are more important structurally.
So wood, wherever we're going to be screwing those sidewalls together to your front wall, back wall, roof, and in your floor too. So just adding that wood so we have some screw retention, extra strength. Yeah, this is what it looks like then.
It's not just the faux wood and aluminum. Just take a look at those deceivingly beefy exposed frame members that you can see. When you look at those I-beams end on, they literally look paper thin. It's so bad that a lot of folks are reporting poor and incomplete welds. It takes a certified welder to be able to do this kind of work without compromising structural integrity. Okay, I'm off topic. Back to the leaks. We were lucky, but not many folks are. And I think I've got to give some credit to Starlink for me finding my problems. You see, in our last video, we'll link it up here, I was running 20 feet of Cat6 Ethernet cable for our new dishy, so I wouldn't have to risk damaging the original Starlink cables by running them through our slide outs. A quick plug into our wet bay and voila, I'm done. While in the basement, I found this, and what might be described as a musty odor. Well guys, this is what we pulled out of the basement. On the back of the Nautilus, the hot water line, tell by the red color. And you can see right here where there's been some leaking, and it's coming right there as well from an inadequate fit and attachment to that plastic fitting with a PEX clamp and vinyl hose to a PEX fitting. And you see that white crust that goes all the way down? That's where the leak was coming from, the fitting. All the way down to another T that had another piece of vinyl there on the right that was attached to it, and more leaking. Just look inside, you can see how sloppy it is. So after pulling the walls down, getting inside and tearing it apart, we've replaced this entire section with brass and got rid of the vinyl here. And the vinyl down there, we've replaced the fitting with a section of regular PEX and then a barbed fitting that's more designed for this vinyl type stuff. That's taken care of the immediate leak. I still have a bunch of these that I need to replace in the basement. That's gonna be a fun job. So while I'm building my strength, I'm gonna go ahead and just say this is good for the moment. And when it gets a little cooler and I get some more time to work on it, I'm going to tear the rest of it apart and replace each and every one of them. What a pain. The reason it wasn't leaking at the moment was that the lime and calcium buildup on the improperly installed PEX and vinyl tubing, and it had gotten thick enough to temporarily stop the leak. Just great. I do consider myself lucky that, when built, instead of stopping the vinyl flooring at the basement wall, they extended it to the opening in the floor to where the plumbing for our tanks was. The water from the leaks had just run across the flooring, dripped into the potential space between tanks, and ran down the coroplast belly till it found an out. We never noticed it, other than that occasional musty smell, thinking it might be just a bad tank vent. Pay attention to your senses. Pay attention to your partner when she tells you something doesn't smell right.
With it, let's have it.
I hadn't been behind those walls for probably 2 years. Never had a need, I thought. We have 2 automatic switches, one for our solar and one for our generator. One with a plastic case and one with a metal box. Yep, sitting right there on the floor within 3 feet of the back of the Nautilus panel where our leak is. These need to be raised off that floor too. We were getting ready to move again in a couple of days, and to fix the leak I would need to shut off the incoming water and drain the plumbing. So, onto our trusty Amazon Prime account to order fittings and parts that I couldn't get as cheaply at our Big Orange here in town. 2 days later, and it's projected to be 110 here. So once again, Grizz and I did our walk and exercise. And then I emptied the basement, then removed the walls to gain access to the plumbing. And here's what I found. There are building codes for residential sticks and bricks use of PEX, but I guess no such safeguards for RVs. I mean, plastic fittings? Our first year I had to replace a plastic check valve on our water heater with a brass one. This is just unconscionable, and these rigs are supposedly advertised for all seasons and full-time use. Really? At least with the walls down, I could get to what I needed. And for the average do-it-yourselfer / shade tree tech, it might not be as much of a problem. But with some health scares and general weakness from treatments, most projects are kind of a pain in the butt for me. But it had to be done. I could not believe how much vinyl hose was used in there. What's worse is that none of the vinyl to PEX transitions would pass any kind of residential code, and your house isn't bouncing down a freeway. I would never have used plastic fittings anywhere in pressurized plumbing, and would gladly have paid a few $100 more to have it done right. In fact, I think that there's a company, an RV manufacturer, that's doing it right now. I believe their name begins with a B? You get it. I pulled the immediately offending section of PEX and vinyl out. Then under our awning in the already sweltering late morning heat, I painstakingly reproduced that section with brass fittings, elbows, T's, straights, and proper barbed connections. Then squirreled myself back in there and connected my newly fabricated proper replacement. I carefully checked all the other fittings and found that I have a stack that I need to replace. But for now, the leak has been addressed, and the heat and lack of circulating air in here has me pretty much done for the day. It still took me 20 minutes to clean up all the lime and calcium that had been deposited on the vinyl flooring. During that time, I checked for leaks by pressurizing the system, and none were found. When done, I closed up those walls and put most everything back in. Come evening, I'd go back and put it all back and close up. The rest of the plumbing problems will be addressed when I feel better. I sacked out and woke up the next morning, a little stiff, but wanting to get the other small project / upgrade out of the way. This will be quick. We've had a Levelmate Pro since we've had Winnie, and man, did I get tired of replacing those button batteries in it over the years. Then, one day while surfing Amazon, I found a 12-volt DC to 3-volt DC step-down tiny converter. I remembered that that battery was a 3-volt DC and thought I might try to add it this week as well. Well, $6, so I ordered it. It came plainly marked, input 12-volt DC supply, that would be the house batteries, and output 3-volt DC. I took the battery out of the Levelmate and found a couple of exposed spots that I could solder wires to without hurting anyone's opportunity to use batteries again if they wanted. Drilled a hole in the side of the box just large enough to run two 20-gauge wires through. Soldered them in place, found a nearby 12-volt light and tapped into its plus and minus supply with a couple of Wago connectors. Mounted the little box nearby and put plastic automotive conduit over the wires using a dab of silicone sealant on the box where the wires came out, and mounted it all back on its compartment door. It all took less than half an hour and almost looks OEM. Kind of. Best of all, I don't have to replace those batteries anymore, and the on-off switch and beep still work. It works perfectly. Lessons learned. Yeah, get behind your wet bay regularly and check for leaks. Under your sinks and anywhere your plumbing runs. Be proactive. We got off lucky and the damage was minimal. But like I said, lucky. It could have been much worse. Replace those cheap arse plastic fittings now and use barbed connectors where you don't have a choice with vinyl. We are going to put shutoff valves at each sink and our commode so we can turn off their supply without affecting the rest of the coach. In the meantime, we have a few more projects we're working on. But for now, please travel safe.